Hello, welcome to Random Movie Time. Today's feature is the 2017 picture, The Year of Spectacular Men, directed by Lea Thompson and starring her and her daughters, Madelyn Deutch and Zoey Deutch. And Madelyn Deutch also wrote it. This is about a young woman looking for love while dealing with the pain of getting over her father's suicide. What did you think about this picture, Shannon?
Well, not much. It was rather bland. This is how I see this movie. So for the first few minutes, it looks like it might be Woody Allen-ish. It takes place in New York at first, and there's a bit of jazz, and it's very Woody Allen feel. So I'm not a big fan of rom-coms. But I do like Woody Allen. So I thought, oh well, maybe this will be okay. But then it started morphing into more like a 20-something Sex and the City, and Sex and the City, because it was just this girl, Izzy is the main character's name. She broke up with her long-term boyfriend, and she's in her mid-20s. She's, I think, 25, and she's like, well, hey, they say go out and have fun in your 20s. So it's just about her, going around and mourning over her ex, and I don't know, going out and having lots of sex, I guess. But then it morphs into like a Lifetime Hallmark movie. Because her other sister is like, you don't have any sense of direction, you have to come and stay with me in LA. And her mom is like involved in a relationship with another woman, and they're dealing with her, Izzy's dealing with her father's suicide, but her little sister doesn't know it was a suicide. She thought it was a car crash. And so, I mean, it's kind of like, and it feels like a Hallmark movie for a while. And then it morphs into this teen drama. Like I'm watching, like, I don't know, Dawson's Creek or something, or like a more serious Sabrina the Teenage Witch. It was just like so weird. And the pièce de résistance, the grand finale, I swear, was written by a grade 9 drama student. That's how it ended. It was just so... It was paper thin. There was no substance to it. None of the characters were likable. There was the mother, played by Lea Thompson, who also directed it, as Tommy said. She was likable for the most part, but she wasn't in the movie very much. So I'm sure if she was in the movie more, we probably wouldn't like her. But that's the way it goes. And they were trying to make Izzy all quirky. She was like a drama student, and she liked the X-Files. She was obsessed with the X-Files, and that's why she was so quirky. But nothing else about her was quirky or interesting. She was just some girl who was self-involved, shot herself in the foot most of the time. I had no sympathy for her. Yeah, it was superficial. I guess it was nicely shot, but it felt like a Hallmark movie in that way. And I hate to say anything bad about Lea Thompson, but this really wasn't awful, but it wasn't good. And it was just a big family affair, because the father, Lea Thompson's husband, who's the father of the two main actresses, was a producer of the film. So it felt like, oh, it's just, hey, let's let our daughter, do her drama school project and enter it into some art festival. So you can tell I have strong feelings about this movie, even though it was bland. Tommy, what do you say?
Well, I think the biggest problem was there wasn't any like sort of emotional stakes. Like, you know, the characters just didn't really go on any journey. They just sort of ended up in the same place where they were at the start. Yeah, in drama, you've got to feel like, oh, something's bad is going to happen to this character, or something bad does happen, and then they get out of it. They get out of the situation. But in this one, she just keeps doing the same thing over and over again. That can work if you've got a quirky, interesting character. You don't really have it in this movie. And, you know, are you afraid because she doesn't have a job? Well, not really, because, you know, she can just move in with her rich sister. And are you afraid that she's not going to find men? Well, you don't really care because she keeps going for really lousy men, like, and she keeps getting back together with this stupid boyfriend, and he has like no qualities whatsoever. It's like, so you're supposed to feel sorry for them, or are you supposed to feel good about them getting back together? I don't get it. No.
Well, one thing you mentioned when you were talking about no emotional depth, one thing that really bothered me about the movie was that they would start exploring their negative emotions, right? Their sadness and their depression. But whenever, within 2 seconds, they're like, oh, I'm so sad, blah, blah, blah. And then within 2 seconds, they'd be like, oh, I know, let's have a dance party. Or let's just ignore this and go and eat ice cream somewhere. They didn't deal with anything.
Yeah.
That's what annoyed me,
Yeah.
too.
It sort of had the pace of like a Sex and the City, maybe even of something quirkier than that, like a Whit Stillman movie. I don't know if you know him. He directed Metropolitan and Damsels in Distress and The Last Days of Disco. Usually his movies are about, you know, quirky young women like this, or sometimes young men, and they're finding their way in the world. But, you know, this movie, it didn't have the character, it didn't have the writing to make any of them compelling. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of something good to say. The music was awful. That was another bad thing. It was your typical, like, girly rom-com kind of coffee house music.
Yeah. Yeah, the most maddening part about it for me was that it was actually competent. Like, this is a show business family. Obviously, they grew up doing this, you know, like, they've worked with George Lucas and Steven Spielberg and Robert Zemeckis, and it's like, well, they know what they're doing, you know, it's okay cinematography, you know, the pacing's okay, the acting's not bad, but really, it would have been way more fun if it was like an incompetent movie, you know, like The Room or something like that, or...
Yeah, so bad that it's entertaining.
Yeah, so that you could at least laugh at it, but this, you know, I couldn't even laugh at it. It was just like so generic, you know, like a Hallmark movie, like you were saying. It sort of felt like that. But at least Hallmark movies have like a journey that the character goes through, and there's some tension and stuff, and whereas this was just sort of like, flat all the way through. So
yeah, they never, it felt like, and also felt like they never finished a thought, you know what I mean? They would start exploring something, and then they'd be like, oh, shiny, and then they'd go over there. You know, they wouldn't really, again, there was no depth.
Yeah, maybe that was the point. Maybe it was supposed to be, oh, aren't these funny, shallow people funny? But they weren't.
No, they weren't. And if they were going to do that angle, then they should have portrayed it better. It didn't come across that way at all to me. And I felt like we were supposed to try to be sympathetic with the main character.
I mean, you know, she's supposed to be like on a budget and, oh, I can't afford to live in New York anymore and all this, but she keeps flying back and forth between New York and LA and San Francisco. You know, so obviously she has some money, and even if she runs out of money, like I said, she's got like a pretty wealthy family that's willing to take her in all the time. So it's like,
that's
what are the emotional stakes in this movie? Not much.
It's like you're looking at like this privileged, this privileged girl who's like, oh no, like she doesn't do anything. She doesn't work. She can't keep a job. She doesn't work at all through the whole movie. And, she's going out getting drunk, like going to Lake Tahoe, going skiing. And I mean, I think that her family pays for her way. But I mean, why would I feel sympathy for somebody like that?
Very difficult.
Okay, I think I've ranted enough. I think you guys get where I'm coming from. Tommy, do you have anything else to add?
Not really. Can't recommend this movie at all. How many first-year film students out of 5 would you give this?
I'm thinking I'll be generous and I'll say I'll give it 1 first-year film student out of 5. I was thinking about giving it a 0.5, but I mean, it is nicely filmed, and the acting isn't so bad. It's just a very bland, superficial movie. So 1 out of 5. How about you?
0. Yeah, I really hate this movie. It's so mediocre. Total waste of time. Actually made me mad.
Yeah. Kind of made me mad too. Okay, maybe I should knock it down to 0.5. Well, okay. There we are.
All right, there you have it. The Year of Spectacular Men. Not such a spectacular movie, after all. So we'll see you next time on
Random Movie Time.